Okay, Ross, it says it's recording.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm not going to take a lot of time because none of these gentlemen needed introduction, but I was asked to do my presidential duty, so I'm fulfilling that. So I'm now going to turn this over to Dr. Craig Arhoos to introduce everyone else on the panel. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Craig Arhoos, and I'm a past president of the Delta chapter of Phi Beta Mu. And over the last few months, I've enjoyed watching different versions of the Legends project go on, being sponsored by Phi Beta Mu chapters in other states, specifically Florida, and in my home state of Alabama. And so a few months ago, I contacted Travis Coakley, the president of the Delta chapter, and I said, "Hey, what do you think? Let's do this here in Mississippi." And I said, "You think it's a good idea?" And he said, "Yeah, I think it's a great idea." And I said, "Well, great. I'm about to create some work for you then." So, so he's done a lion's share of the work. But we wanted to talk. And this is not the first time something like this has happened. Some of you may remember several years back, there was a session that Muhammad Schumann did with Dr. Friskillo. We did one at the ASBDA session a few years back with Badre Hanna and Floyd Stevens, which was an amazing session. My only regret about that is we didn't record it. And that was a really good session. But we're taking care of that now. So honoring our legendary directors in a meaningful way is a good way to recognize their contributions and inspire future generations. Number one, it helps preserve a legacy and their history, celebrating the dedication and achievements of individuals like Mr. Lewis, who have shaped Mississippi's music education and culture. It's also designed to inspire future generations by highlighting role models for current and aspiring music educators. And we want to encourage lifelong learning and excellence and motivate others to pursue their personal and professional best. And you can expect to see more of these in the future, but we wanted to kick this off here at State Band Clinic with someone who needs no introduction. So I'm going to turn it over at this point to Dr. Coakley and Mr. Ken Lewis.
Thank you, Dr. Arhoos, and thank you to all of you that are here today. What's going to be a great time and a great conversation. It's my pleasure to just be up here and moderate and just start the conversation. And I told Mr. Lewis on the phone conversations we've had leading up to this, we'll take this in any way and any direction that you would like. So we're going to start with Mr. Lewis. If you could just tell us a little bit about your background, about where you grew up, about where you went to school, and who your band directors were.
I can do that. I grew up in the worst county in the state of Mississippi. It's called Tallahatchie. East Tallahatchie was my school. And it was a funny thing, my sister was drum major her senior year of the East Tallahatchie band. And so my mother knew the director, and a friend of mine and I were walking in town after afternoon one time. And this director pulled up in his car and he said, "Hey, fellas, come here." He went in the store where my mother worked and he said, "I'm going to take these boys up to the band hall." And I was going, "What are we going to do?" So we went up, and you know who it was? Sonny Hill. And people know that reputation. Oh, man. So he set me down in front of a tuba. And he taught me to play a little bit of tuba. And then the next thing I know, I had played the B-flat scale. I didn't know what it was, but I played it. Man, I was excited. And that did me right there. I got in the band in the 5th grade, and here I am, still in the band. But it was a wonderful experience for me, and it was just something that hit me that this is what I want to do. And of course, Mr. Hill affected that, and then the band director that came after him was Jerry G. And I love Mr. G too, because he had a Pontiac convertible. And when I got old enough, he let me drive it. Anyway, that's where it all started. And by the 7th grade, I knew I wanted to be a band director. I was crazy then, I'm still crazy, but I wanted to be a band director. Okay.
I think a lot of questions we get from our students that are thinking about music is how does that decision made? What prompted you to do that? So was there anything just specifically that made you choose that? And then after you graduated from high school, how did you pursue that career?
Okay. Actually, honestly, it was Mr. Hill. that affected me a whole bunch. And I just loved him, and that turned me into a love of music. And then I spent a lot of time in the office with Mr. G, conversing about things. And then when I graduated high school, I got a vocal and band scholarship to Northwest Community College. And that might have been the only way I could have gone. We were not wealthy people at all. We weren't poor, but just didn't have much. But anyway, those two scholarships got me going to Northwest. Met a lot of good friends. Several of them tried to be band directors and didn't last long. But it was a good experience. It was a very good experience. The director was Mr. Triplett, Glenn Triplett. I think he was a Southern graduate, and he could play trumpet like nobody's business. He started rehearsal every day. He walked out of his office with a trumpet in his hand, popped the trumpet up and played a super C, made a super G, put his horn down and said, "Y'all can do that." Okay. Anyway, and in the spring, I had planned to go to Delta State. And then in the spring, Dr. Jimmy Ferguson from Ole Miss came to our spring concert. And he came on stage afterwards and he said, "Okay, I'm going to talk to you and talk to you." And there's about 4 or 5 of us. And he said, "Now I'm going to invite you over to my house in Ole Miss." Okay. So we went to Ole Miss, and Dr. Ferguson said, let's go to the airport. Flew us in his plane. It was wonderful, man, you know. Well, I changed. Instead of going to Delta State, I went to Ole Miss, got a scholarship. I dropped the vocal part because I realized I was not going to ever be able to do what I wanted to do vocally. It was kind of one of those pipe dreams. And I wanted to be the next Frank Sinatra, but the voice wouldn't let me do it. And he was trying to teach me opera, and I did some, but it was like, I don't want to do this all my life. Band, it just did it for me. And being with Dr. Jim Ferguson was quite an experience. And he encouraged me in a strange way, but I loved it. We were walking to a pep rally, and he said something about, "Y'all want to play such and such, such, such?" And I said, "What key?" I was wrong. That impressed him. And then when we had juries, that was a nightmare, but it was still, he would impress me. And the funny thing about my experience at Ole Miss was one rehearsal, he got upset because everybody's playing out of tune, and he looked at the tuba section and he said, "Is there anybody back there can sing a scale?" I said, "Yes, sir, I can." And I sang it, and he said, "Your first chair." So there I was. And I love that experience, and then the rest, band directing, that's a wonderful experience too. Stories about that.
Well, you were sharing with us earlier some points about your career, and I'd love for you to share some of those stories with everybody who came out today from your first job and where you started and how that took you all the way to Delta State.
Ooh, I'd love to tell you about that. I went to Alcorn Central outside of Corinth. It was my first job. I refused it 3 times. I was so scared. I can't do this. I can't go be a band. They had never had a band. I said, "Oh my gosh, I don't want it." Well, I was talked into doing it by some good friends. One of the best things I ever did. We had band every period with only 1 or 2 in this period, 4 or 5 in this period, all beginners, all day long, 7 periods. And the activity period, I had to teach the chorus. I had about 10 minutes for lunch, that was it, every day. Well, the second year, they managed to build a band hall. And so we were able to meet together. And so it was a wonderful experience with those young people. They were hungry, and they wanted a band. And I realized in that second year that I wasn't sure I knew what I was doing. because I was acting more like Dr. Jimmy Ferguson, who acted like, who was at Michigan? Ravelli, Dr. Ravelli. And that didn't work in Alcorn County, Mississippi. No. So I found a book. It is called Effective Performance of Band Music, and it's written by W. Francis Macbeth, and it was my Bible. I loaned it to a student. I don't have it anymore. And I looked online and tried to see if I could get it. And yeah, 150 bucks, but I'll pay it in a heartbeat. I went in front of my band with a big chalkboard, and I did exactly what Dr. Macbeth said do. And I did it with those kids. They heard what difference the sound was when we did that. And it was about, you know, which voice needs to be the strongest and which voice. And we worked on it, and it came across. And they said, we got it. And they did. And I had some people would come in, and after they heard the band, they said, man, that sounds like an organ, you know? I said, thank you. And the little group was something else. Well, in the second full year, we went to state contest. We went to Tupelo Marching Festival. We made a 2. And then a gentleman called Sonny Cadden, all y'all know Mr. Cadden, started from over the field, walking around the edge of the field. I said, that man's coming over here. I had never met him before. He walked up to me, stuck his hand out, and he said, I'm Sonny Cadden, and I want to tell you, young man, you're doing the right things. I said, you know, and it made a difference. Made a difference. Well, I stayed at Alcorn Central for 3.5 years. Then my football coach, who was my best friend, went to Baldwin. And Baldwin got open because the Scots moved. And so he came and he said, I want you to come to Baldwin with me. So I did. It was a fine move, great kids, great band. It was fun. I had to teach the students how to read some music. Because when I tried to play the first B-flat scale on the first rehearsal, I had a bunch of 7th and 8th graders just sit there with their horn, and I said, want to play that? Well, I don't know how to play that. And it was a challenge, much of a challenge. And the next part is my best friend at that time was Phil Nanny, who was band director at W.P. Daniel in New Albany. Phil decided to stop this and go into church music full time. And so he said, I want you to come take my band. And it worked out with the administration. Said, okay. That was a wonderful place. Wonderful students, wonderful community. Then I made one of the biggest mistakes in my life. I quit. And I went to fundraising. One semester. And I did not like, we moved to Russellville, Alabama, and you know, it was something. But I finally decided to quit. I said, look, hang it up at Christmas time, the end of the semester. So I called and said that's what I was going to do, and I was going to finish up. In the meantime, my mother fell dead of a heart attack in the grocery store. We were going to take the 2 children we had at that time to stay with her over the weekend because my wife's father was going to have surgery in Memphis. Well, anyway, she was in the store buying candy for my kids, and she fell dead of a heart attack. My daddy was alone and was older, considerably older. And I said, I got to get back into Mississippi anyway. Lord works in mysterious ways. I was packed up, ready to go on my route. 7 a.m., the phone rang. It was the headmaster of the school at Winston Academy in Louisville, Mississippi. And he said, a little bird told me you might be interested in teaching. And I said, yes, sir, I might. Well, of course, we went and spent the weekend, and I took the job for 1 semester. I've got to tell you this. I know I'm getting long-winded, but when I walked in there and saw what I had, I said, well, I've got to hear how everybody can play. So we did. Kids would come in and play something for me. I'd ask scales or something. I knew where they were, you know. progression-wise, a beautiful little black-headed girl with a euphonium walks in, sits down. I said, hey, you know, how you doing? Okay. And I said, would you play a scale for me? Maybe the B-flat scale? She puts one up and she goes, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da. Do that again, please. Play a scale for me again. Ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da. Why are you not going up to the next three notes? Because it's harder. Oh dear. I said, wait a minute. Well, I talked to that band and I said, here's the deal. I know y'all don't want to do anything. You have a new director, you have one every semester, and I know, I understand that. Come with me, come with me. Contest was in about a month, and I said, then we're gonna do okay. You believe me, you're gonna have to trust me. You either do that, or you decide not to. So I said, you vote on it. And I went in the office and sat down, and the director, they came and said, Mr. Lewis, we're gonna do it. I said, okay. So we went to work. We made a 1 in concert and a 2 in sight reading. And I thought they were going to erect a statue of me on the street. It wasn't me, it was them. You know, they just didn't know that they could do what they could do. But in the meantime, South Planola High School was going to come open, and I knew the superintendent very well. We grew up together actually, and so he called me and he said, you know, the job's yours if you want it. So I went and I observed twice. I thought twice about going too. I didn't like what I saw. So it kind of convinced me, okay, we're gonna take that job. We're gonna straighten that mess out. Well, I stayed there 15 years, wonderful years in my life. And some wonderful things happened during that time. And you're going to ask me something else, or I need to keep going. The band kept getting a little better, bigger, better. Everything started working. I was allowed to hire an assistant, then I was allowed to hire another assistant. And y'all all know Dennis Cox. And you know William McEwen is not here now. Some of you knew him. But the interesting thing, and this might be very beneficial to y'all, listen to this, what we did. We sat down at the table after school, the three of us, and we said, okay, what do you like doing the best? Interesting, strange thing, Mr. McEwen said, I want to start the kids and I'm going to develop a sound in those kids. Mr. Cox said, I don't mind repetition. So I'll do that part of it if you need to. We'll just work until we can get it done. Wonderful. I said, well, what I enjoy is taking a piece of music and figuring out how I wanted it to sound and then working on it and the whole bit. And so it worked. We said, well, okay, that's what our emphasis is. Of course, that wasn't the only emphasis, but they had to teach. And we all had to teach, but at the same time, that's what we did, and it worked. We had 8 years together, wonderful years. The thing I'd love to tell you, and I believe you might want to mention sometime, maybe one of the better things that ever happened in my career. I took the South Manola Band to a Smoky Mountain Music Festival 2 different times. Well, this was the second time, and we played the concert. It was one of those things where when I dropped the baton, I knew this was it. Maybe the finest thing we ever did. But anyway, we played. The judges were Dr. Harry Bejan, Colonel Bourgeois, Kenneth, Bloomquist, and Ed Gangware, who was at Northwestern, but he passed away after that. So that was the judging panel. And finished the concert, cut the band off. I didn't even get off the podium before those judges were surrounding me. And Dr. Harry Bejan, y'all know who Dr. Bejan was? Oh, University of Illinois, and those are the recordings you want to find if you need to hear something. But anyway, he came up to me and he put his finger in this way and he said, I want this band at Midwest. And he said, I want people to hear what this band sounds like. Folks, that tore me up. And I said, yes, sir. Brother, the guys did, well, okay, we left, we got dressed, we went and did the parade. It's what you do at Gatlinburg. So we finished the parade, we had to go to the area, staging area, and we set up, well, I had the band come in and block formation, and I had them stand at ease. But I certainly didn't turn them loose, and there were bands over here on the other side playing mud and everything. So here comes the crew, the judging crew, and it was the same crew. Dr. Beecham walked up to me, he stuck his finger in my chest. He said, I'm gonna telling you something, I want that band at Midwest. And he said, I'm on the board. I'm going, oh my goodness. That didn't happen, but I got to be good friends with Dr. Beecham. He got to critique the band at another contest in St. Louis, and the whole bit. And the other thing, the other judges said, hey, do something for us. Have the band play for us again. Block band out in the field. And I said, okay, then we got a great parade piece. Well, that was pretty much a highlight for me. It was without my high school teaching, and there were several others I got, but that was probably the biggest thing that happened at that point in time, which scared me to death.
Fantastic. So after your high school career, talk to us about higher ed and working with band directors, etc.
Okay. I was called about the Delta State University band director job when Mr. Gary Cook retired. I thought twice about that too, because I didn't want to follow that hero. But I wound up doing it anyway. I decided I want to do this. And so I went to Delta State in 1996. Quite frankly, I'm going to tell you this, and it'll happen to you too. You'll go into a situation and you'll realize, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. How to do it. Well, all I knew to do was what I knew to do. And so it worked. The band started growing, and it was amazing that before it was all over, we got within 2 people of the biggest band that ever had. Because Dr. of New Mexico, Clark, he sat down with me and he told me, he said, the biggest band we ever had was 138, I'm sorry. And I got to 136. And that was so disappointing, but it was great. Wonderful band. All right, I was very blessed to have great scholarship money. So I found Lions band players all over the place. And I had some in each section. And man, that band was fine, absolutely fine. And many of them music majors. I don't know what kind of job I did convincing them to do that or helping them get to that point, but I sure did love it. And so we had a lot of music majors, band grew. We had to fight a few battles to get there, get things done, but everybody does. I think it might be interesting for you to hear a little bit of this. When I first got there, I looked at what I was going to have come in the fall. And I knew I was going to have some equipment. So I figured out what I needed, and I went to the chair of the department, and I said, here's what I've got to have to get the band on the field. And he said, well, I don't have it. I said, I don't have it. Well, I said, well, can I go to the president? And he said, yeah, but I'm going with you. I said, okay. So he lined up an appointment. I went to the president, Dr. Kent White, who was a great man. And he said, come on in, sit down. You want a cup of coffee? I said, no, sir, I'm fine right here. Well, I sat right up there behind him, blah, blah, blah. He said, what do you need? I said, well, here's what I need right now, Dr. White, just so we can get the band on the field. And he said, well, when you go out, just tell my secretary, she'll take care of it. Wow, isn't that nice? So we did, we walked across back to the band hall, and it happened again. The band grew. And grew and grew and grew. So we needed stuff. So went back over there. And sat down with Dr. White, and the chair was, he said, oh my gosh, what do you need this time? And I said, well, this. He said, all right, this time, told the chair, I said, why don't you take care of this? Oh, well, okay. And he did. Well, okay. Third time I needed something, we had gotten to 136, and when I went over that, it was like only in like the 80s, 70s, 80s. So, this time I presented a presentation to the board. There were all the big boys of the university, with the president, vice president, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I went to that meeting, and finally they allowed me to have a few words. I passed out my presentation to them, and I said, would you please look at this page and this page? And I said, this is going to kind of show you what we need. We have a jazz band, we have a marching band, we have 2 concert bands, and we need some equipment. Well, I don't know whether they read it or not. But the next morning, I walked into school, walked down the hall, and the chairman of the department stopped me, and he said, hey, you've got $60,000. That's what they said to give you. I said, what? So I bought some instruments that I made. Anyway, I loved it. I loved it at Delta State. I may not have done what I needed to do in the right way, but I did. I had some wonderful students, and many of them are sitting here. And the deal that made me so happy about that is I had bunches of them go out to teach. This is amazing. I love this. And that was kind of the focus then. It was teachers. And it was just wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. I was doing several around there. And so that was my career. In 2002, I developed DVT, which swelled my leg up so bad and it hurt so bad. I went back to work in the fall of 2002 and realized I couldn't quite do the job. At Delta State, if you wanted to get students, you had to drive all over the state and find them. You know, everybody just didn't fling and do it. But anyway, that's what the doctor said, that you'd been sitting in that car seat too long, and that's what's happening to you. Well, I tried to go back, and marching season, and I couldn't even get up the ladder to the tower, the platform. And I realized, okay, that's going to be a problem, and I can't drive all over the country looking for players and students. I can't do it. So rather than see the program go down in front of my eyes, I had 32 years in, and I just retired. I would not have had I not had some issues. But anyway, I had 32 wonderful years. It is the greatest job you can have. Absolutely. I loved every minute of it, even the bad times. It was good.
In Phi Beta Mu, we talk a lot about mentorship and taking care of the next generation. And I know that many out here and many around the state consider you a mentor to them. But throughout your career that you just described, who were your mentors and who did you look up to? Who are your mentors and who did you look up to?
I was scared of Badre Hanna because I had to follow him at contests. I'm scared of. And then we got to be friends. We judged sight reading many years together. But yeah, I was scared. Mr. Cadden, Mr. Sonny Cadden, absolutely loved him. Then I had a few other friends that I liked. Cheryl Bailey was at Winona, and he was a good guy and a friend. So I used people. Now, here's something that I always did, we did at my era back in there. I started teaching in 71 and stopped in 03. So in the middle of that, we always had band director friends come to our rehearsals and critique us, no matter what it sounded like. And then we'd get in the car and go to their rehearsal. They don't do that anymore. It was wonderful. Except I had some people just really tear me up about something, which is okay. It helped me. that's what I believe that needs to happen. One thing that I truly believe needs to happen. Help each other. Help each other. You might have something in your head and heart that he doesn't have. So now then, you can help him with that. He can have something that you don't have. And one of the worst things that ever happened, Mr. Bob Chase was band director at Houston, Mississippi. And his son and daughter both came to Delta State and graduated with music degrees, but they're doing other things now. Anyway, Mr. Chase was kind of famous because he was a talent scout for the show on TV. And so he'd find talent and he'd fly to California and take the talent with him. But he was a clarinetist and he had played some kind of clarinet. So I finished rehearsal and I said, all right guys, what do you think? Bob Chase said, that's the worst, excuse me y'all, that's the worst damn clarinets I've ever heard in my life. I'm going, well, what do I do? So, really true. I went to graduate school at Ole Miss in the summer with Mr. Soche, and I took clarinet. And I said, I'm gonna figure out what to do. And we did. It worked. Did that. And then, of course, there's some other guys that would come and listen to me. Man, you know, do this. And it was wonderful because I learned. I learned. I did never regret getting criticized. I never did, because I wanted it. I wanted to tell me what's wrong. What can I do? I've had a lot of guys do that, friends do that, so I appreciate it. That was part of it. And today, I would really like to see that happen with young directors. And then I'd like to see some other things happen.
That leads you guys right into it.
I'm a sight reading nut. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It hurt my feelings when it got watered down. I'm sorry. I'm being a bad boy. But I judge sight reading. And if you're given the rhythms and the key and the style, hello? That just absolutely tore me up for that to happen. I was in the old days, yeah, I'm an old timer, when you got a piece of music and it was tough. You had to be decent to play. Well, here's what the deal is. Teach the kids to have fun reading. And you do that by doing some fundamentals, and you do those fundamentals every single day. Rhythms. Do them on this key, then turn and do it on that key. The Joe Bierman rhythm page, does anybody have that? Share it with everybody else. Send them one. I can't find mine, but anyway, it's there. And you take it and you take a different key on all of those different rhythm patterns, and it's fun. It's fun. So now that the kids have seen all these rhythms, okay, they've done it in different keys. You've done it fast, you've done it slow. We would do it in legato style. We would do it in marcato style, staccato style. Well, when you open up that paper, you can read most of it. They could read most of it. There might be a section or two in there that was tough. They could do it. Well, they learned to enjoy it because they're telling you, don't back off on sight reading, have fun. Get in and play, enjoy playing. And they would. And for the most, sometimes we didn't make it. They'd come out of the room and there go, there's a two. I'm going, oh gosh. But anyway, then it got to be where it was just once because they just loved doing it. I think it's freaking some people out. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But teach those kids to play. Put those rhythms. I've got things you could do. Man, there's a jillion things you could do. Remington exercises, Joe Bierman exercises. And my big deal was chorales. I hope and pray that my band sound is one that people try to emulate. I really do, because I love getting it. And it took regimental work, day after day after day. I had a music representative come to my rehearsal. We did chorales. We worked on tone. We did chorales, worked on there'd be about 15 minutes left in the period, and then I'd get out a piece to play. And he fussed at me, how you do that, man? You concerts, I mean, you only did 15 minutes. And I said, listen, here's the deal. If they can play with a good sound, good rhythm, good balance, et cetera, then they can play that music. Well, it was true. They could. If we did all of that, and we did. Chichester chorales, find a book somewhere and use them. Boy, there's something. And I would work those until I got the sound I wanted, until I got the balance I wanted, I got the tone that I wanted. And then we pull out the contest music and play it. I know that sounds funny, and it's probably oversimplified, but that's exactly what we did. And it was my thing. That was what I wanted. I wanted to sound. And thank the Lord, people did. People came to hear the band sound. That sound includes a whole bunch of stuff. You know, balance, tone, blend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I had ways to do that, to work on it. So I was blessed. I was very blessed to have that. And I want to tell you how I got it. You take but a minute. This first band I had, set them down, went to the board, wrote down what Dr. Macbeth said do, and had them do it. They heard it themselves. That was it. I never had to worry about balance again. Pretty amazing for a bunch of kids that had never played but 2 years. So anyway, it was fun. Okay, what else do I know? Get out of here probably.
So you talked about earlier throughout your career, you loved all of it, the good days and the bad days. What were some of the challenges that you faced throughout your career, and how did you overcome those?
Okay. Of course, the first one was when I moved to Alcorn Central. The principal cleaned out the incinerator and made me an office. That was it. Had a few shelves, he put a heater in there. The incinerator now, I'm telling you. Well, I'd have to walk up the hill to a classroom, and that's when I'd have students every period. Well, we overcame that. He built a band hall for me, and I didn't, you know. Well, as you go on, you're going to have money problems. You're going to have scheduling problems. The best way to handle that, I believe, is to do your homework. Be sure that you know exactly what's happening here. And if you get the opportunity to go to the board, be sure you have something to put in their hands. And that's something that's real. I mean, you've done your homework. You put it out there. I did that several times. And the first time I did it, he let me get an assistant band director. I had 170-something kids in the band and just me doing it and having a student help me. So I got an assistant. Soon I got the third assistant, and it was the same thing. I told him what the problem was, and I laid it on them, and I left it alone. And they took care of it. That was high school stuff happened like that. Then one time in New Albany, loved that school. The superintendent's office was just down the hall from the band hall. They had torn a wall out before I moved there, before I got there, to make the band hall a little bigger. Well, we didn't know anything about this, but there was no heat. They were tearing stuff out. Well, it turned cold. We were scraping ice off the window, the whole wall of windows. And the clarinet players was sitting there with overcoats on and leather gloves trying to play clarinet. It was the most ridiculous thing you ever saw in your life. So I said, sit there, don't you move, I'll be back. I went down the hall of the superintendent's office. And I said, sir, we need some heat. We need heat. There's no heat in it. You mean there's no heat in there? No, there's not. I'll make a, what do I say about this? So I go back and the next day, believe this is funny, man. The janitor, custodial guy, came walking up with a heater about this big that he was gonna put in my office. And I said, no, sir, come on. Same thing again. Let's go down to the superintendent's office. I said, sir, this is not a heater. I'm talking about the students need the heat. I don't need it in my little old office. They need heat. And sometimes you have to be a little bit forceful without being too bad. You know, you don't want to get run off. But you say, we need heat. Well, the next day they came in and put in a big old blower heater. we couldn't even use them. That blew so much heat in there. But anyway, and scheduling. Scheduling is always going to be a problem. You switch from this system to this system to this system. The best thing to do that I know is to present the problem to the people you know that have something to do with it, and then walk away. All right, if nothing happens, what do? You go back again. You present again. Here's what's happening. You walk away. I got a crazy thought one day, because when I was president of the Band Masters years ago. Okay. Oh, no, time to go with it.
Microphone.
Oh, microphone, sorry. Okay, so. What are we doing? I forget what I'm doing. Thanks so much. Well, I forgot where I was going. Oh, I was talking about the presentation. Be sure you present something. Don't ever go into the administrator's office and just gripe it. And don't do it. Go in as pleasant as you can, but have your ammunition. Put it down there. And then it doesn't work at all. At all. You've got wonderful band boosters out there that'll speak up for it if you let them. Their parents will do it, man. I've had parents go and gripe and complain because of this, that, and the other, and it got done. I didn't have to do it. Use your band parents. Believe in them and let them do what they want. They'll work their tails off for you. And that's, so that's a little bit. I don't know whether I answered your question or not.
Enough about the bad times, let's talk about the good times and the reason we do this in the first place, and that's the music. Tell us about maybe a memorable performance you had with one of your groups, or maybe some of your favorite pieces that you had an opportunity to conduct.
Ooh, I got a bunch of them. Hang on just a second.
And for the record, I'm glad it's not just me on the microphone breaking up from earlier. Man.
Okay. One of the most meaningful times, rehearsal-wise and contest-wise, was a Thursday night game, marching season. I was at Hawthorne Central. The kids showed up for rehearsal, but the rain was coming down like cats and dogs, and it was raining. So I said, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. We'll march in place and play through the show. You know, and maybe do a little fixing here and fixing there. And then we'll go home and we'll try our best to go over it one more time before we go to perform at the Tip Club. Well, they didn't move. And I said, y'all, there's nothing else we can do. It's pouring down rain. They got up, they walked out, and then went straight down to the field in the rain. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, I'm gonna have kids with pneumonia and whooping cough and everything else. Parents are gonna crawl me upside one and down the other. True story. Not one word was ever said. Those kids worked their tail off till almost 10 o'clock. All soaking wet. Oh, it's bad. Well, we didn't. Come back the next day, never heard a word about it, and they did well. That's the time that anyway, that was one of the most exciting times. It was good for us. The other times were when we got those comments from wonderful people that I admired a lot and rejected, and we got those comments. Maybe one of the most memorable times was we played at the event, whatever it's called, in Louisville. Shoot, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's a series of things, you know. So, anyway, we played, and the deal there was, when you finished, you went to another room back there, and one of the judges would come and critique you. It was Harry Bejan. And he came, and that was the most wonderful 30 minutes I ever spent. My kids ate it up. They loved it. And I was so thankful for that. Of course, I enjoyed every time we did well. Every time. And then at Delta State, we didn't go to contests to get judged, but we went to almost every regional contest, I think. And the fun part there was, we finished the show, but we didn't finish. We parked and barked. Darkness on the Delta. Boy, people love it. We crank up and point up into the stands and play Darkness on the Delta. It may not have been something that you receive an award for, but it was something that you feel and you feel it. You love it. I have been blessed. I have been truly blessed with students, teaching opportunities. I loved every minute of it. I still would like to do it. So let me ask you to do this. My name is Ken Lewis. My phone number is 662-934-9616. I would love to help you. I may not can. I sure would love to try. Okay? What else now?
Speaking of loving this, I've loved this and really enjoyed this. Haven't you guys enjoyed this? So I want to thank all of you for coming out today. I want to thank Dr. Craig Arhus for encouraging us to set this up and keep this going. And certainly, Mr. Lewis, thank you for coming down and spend some time with us. If there's any last minute thing you'd like to say.
Just be patient. Be patient. Do your work, and it'll work out. One other thing. This is in closing. The South Panola band was doing pretty good, but not really good. On the way down to Hines Community College, where contest was, I don't remember what year it was, maybe 87. I thought about it, I've never done this before. So when we got to unloading the buses, we gathered around, and I said, folks, let's pray. And I said, you know what, Lord, we've done all we know to do. I've done all I know to do, the students have done all they know to do, so we're going to put it in your hands. We never made anything less than a 1 in anything, anywhere. Hello? That's my preaching.
Let's thank Mr. Lewis.
I didn't tell you where the mean parts did. Lynn, don't tell anybody.
I was in those meetings. Were you in that one? I wasn't in that one. I was in the one that's spoken on music festival.